It's Wednesday, May 3rd. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and today we end up with almost looks like an inside day with a red bar, but it's really a two down day. We barely took out the low of the previous day, and we closed near the lows of the day. So in the bigger picture, what's developing, if you look at the 3 days of this week so far, 1, 2, 3, go to the weekly chart, we kind of opened up, took out the high of the previous week as expected after this hammer bar, but now we've come down, and it looks like we're pretty much taking out the midpoint of that bar after today, and that would project towards, an outside bar, taking out the lows of the previous week. That's kind of where we're heading right now. It looks that way. We'll see where things open tomorrow. If that happens, for example, then we just get a 3 bar to the downside. That doesn't necessarily mean it's an actionable signal to get very short. It just means that, let's say we end up with a 3 bar to the downside that closes red, we should get follow through, into some gap areas that are here, and then maybe we can get a 3, 2 down, 2 up reversal kind of thing. But we'll have to see if that even unfolds. We're right on the edge of it as of yesterday. I discussed how if we could kind of get below yesterday's low here, that's the midpoint of the prior week, and that could project down there. And it looks like after today's session, we want to try to do that, especially closing near the lows and expecting follow through lower tomorrow. So we'll kind of see what happens. We'll see where the pre-market range opens tomorrow. If somehow we hold in here and open up, the midway point of this bar and head higher, and especially now that we have this selling tail, we know we have to break through there, then, we might reverse the trend up. But essentially, we've been below this yellow line, which is the open of the week for the last 2 days now. So we've had sort of a negative bias ever since Monday, but we also knew that we were a point of key support here where maybe we can turn up. But in order to turn up today, you really had to start above the midpoint of today and head higher above the pre-market highs. And if you go to the 15-minute structure, what unfolded was you had kind of a first bar that was inside of the pre-market range. So once we broke above on bar 2, I shot a morning recap video. You can go look at it, saying how, your projection was to take out those highs. And at that point, you see if then you kind of work your way higher in line with kind of getting above the halfway point of yesterday and working towards a 2-up day, which never obviously unfolded. And instead, you had an immediate failure. I discussed how in here, there was a good chance you were taking, there was a sell signal to take out those lows and probably reach the pre-market lows, which were down here at the blue line, and that's what it did. At that point, it's choppiness because you're waiting for that Fed decision, and I discussed that on that morning video. Anyway, so then the Fed decision came, and there was all kinds of choppiness as expected, and we tried to go up a few times. I was waiting to see, are we going to break up or down out of this? Are we, because I called today kind of a key inflection point. Either we start up above the midpoint of yesterday and really get to the yellow line and turn the whole trend back up, or we might fail and take out the lows of yesterday, and that starts a potential downside failure. So what happened was early on in that, after the Fed announcement, price chop, tried up a few times, and it couldn't go anywhere. If you really look in detail, the first push up went up, then we had an inside bar, then you tried to go up again, you failed, you went all the way down, took out the stops. So there's your liquidity, up and down, taking out the highs and lows. Then you had this inside bar that couldn't go anywhere, and then finally you had the big red bar to the downside, and that's where I shot a video showing how I bought some puts in here, because on the 5-minute chart I expected this bar right here to kind of if it was going to fail, it would have started up the same way these bars started down, but instead the 5-minute chart was holding in here and heading lower. So I bought some puts in here that ended up being a nice little trade at the end of the day, and now we end up kind of near the lows. But again, it's possible we start with a gap. Maybe this is just inefficient pricing down here, and we immediately gap up tomorrow. I can't predict it for sure, but all signs look like we're going to try to take out yesterday's lows, which can then work towards the weekly lows, and that can set up a potential down week after Friday. So we'll see what happens. And again, on the monthly chart, we have the same monthly failure unfolding, where you took out the high of the previous month, got below the midpoint of that month. So now it looks like we're getting an outside bar possibly of the whole month of April. It looks like with we can be taking out those lows after taking out the highs, given the price action here and the inability to follow through. So that's what's unfolding. For tomorrow, we have to get above the midpoint of, we really have to hold here and get above the midpoint of today and above whatever pre-market ranges in order to even consider going long. That's going to anticipate getting above the yellow line, turning the weekly chart back to green. Until then, bias to the downside.